You know that moment when your entire life flashes before your eyes? When you realize that the next 60 seconds are going to define whether you're remembered as the cool aunt or the family scandal that gets whispered about at every Thanksgiving dinner for the next decade? Yeah, I had that moment last Tuesday, and let me tell you, it involved a lot less clothing than I would have preferred. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and I absolutely ruined my relationship with my entire family because I decided to embrace my European vacation mindset a little too enthusiastically in my own backyard. But here's the thing, this story isn't just about an awkward encounter. It's about how one decision, one moment of letting your guard down, can create a domino effect that touches every single relationship you care about. So buckle up, because this gets uncomfortable, messy, and honestly, I'm still processing whether I was completely in the wrong or if everyone else is overreacting. You can judge for yourself. It started 3 weeks ago when my sister Emma called me in a panic. She needed a massive favor. Her and her husband Marcus had an opportunity to go on a week-long corporate retreat in Colorado, all expenses paid, but they needed someone to watch their 16-year-old son, Dylan. Now, Dylan isn't a little kid who needs constant supervision. He's a responsible teenager, gets good grades, plays on the school soccer team, pretty much the golden child of the family. But Emma was worried about leaving him completely alone for a whole week. Enter me, the cool aunt who lives in a house with a pool, works from home, and has a pretty flexible schedule. Emma practically begged me, and honestly, I love my nephew. We've always had a great relationship. He's not into the typical angsty teenager stuff. We can actually have real conversations, and I figured having him around for a week would be fun. Plus, I had just broken up with my boyfriend of 3 years, and the distraction sounded perfect. Dylan moved in that Sunday with his duffel bag full of clothes, his gaming laptop, and enough confidence to make the whole thing feel easy. The first few days were great. I'd work during the day while he went to school. He'd come home, we'd have dinner together, watch some shows, and everything felt perfectly normal. He had soccer practice most afternoons, so I still had plenty of alone time. It was working out better than I expected. Now here's where I need to give you some context about me and my lifestyle. I'm not someone who's super uptight about bodies. I grew up with parents who were pretty liberal. I've traveled extensively through Europe, and I've been to plenty of beaches in France and Spain where topless sunbathing is completely normal. It's not sexual, it's not weird, it's just a different cultural attitude toward the human body. When I'm in my own private space, in my own backyard with a privacy fence, I sometimes sunbathe topless. It's my house, my yard, and I'm not visible to neighbors. I never thought twice about it. Tuesday was an absolutely gorgeous day, like one of those perfect late spring days where the sun is warm but not scorching. There's a gentle breeze, and you can't imagine being stuck indoors. I had finished all my work calls by 2 in the afternoon, and I knew Dylan had soccer practice until 5:30. He'd texted me earlier saying he'd probably grab food with some teammates afterward, and would be home around 7. I had a clear 5-hour window, and I was going to take full advantage of it. I made myself a smoothie, grabbed my book, put on my favorite playlist, and headed out to the backyard. I set up my lounger by the pool, laid out my towel, and yes, I took my top off. The sun on my skin felt absolutely incredible. I was reading this thriller novel, completely absorbed in the story, occasionally dipping into the pool to cool off. It was exactly the kind of peaceful afternoon I needed after a stressful week of Zoom meetings and project deadlines. I was so relaxed, so completely in my own world, that I didn't hear the back gate open. I didn't hear footsteps on the deck. What I did hear was a sharp, horrified gasp, followed by the words, "Oh my God, Aunt Sarah!" My eyes shot open and I saw Dylan standing there, soccer bag still on his shoulder, his face turning a shade of red I didn't even know was humanly possible. We locked eyes for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 2 seconds. Then he spun around so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet and practically sprinted back into the house. I grabbed my towel and wrapped it around myself so quickly I almost fell off the lounger. My heart was pounding like I'd just run a marathon. Every possible thought was racing through my head at once. Why was he home early? How much did he see? What do I even say? Do I apologize? Do I act casual? Is this going to traumatize him? Oh God, is he going to tell his parents? I sat there for probably 5 minutes, just trying to calm down and figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to just pretend it never happened, but I knew that wasn't an option. I had to address this. I put on my clothes and went inside, my hands actually shaking. Dylan was in his room with the door closed. I knocked gently and said his name. There was a long pause before he responded with a very quiet, "Yeah?" I asked if we could talk, and after another pause, he opened the door but wouldn't make eye contact with me. His face was still flushed, and he looked completely mortified. I tried to explain that I wasn't expecting him home, that I thought I had complete privacy, that in my own backyard I sometimes sunbathe that way, and I never would have done it if I'd known he was coming home early. He just nodded, still staring at the floor, and mumbled something about practice getting canceled because the coach had a family emergency. He said he texted me, but I must not have seen it because my phone was inside. I checked my phone, and sure enough, there was a text from an hour ago saying practice was canceled and he was heading home. I had been so absorbed in my book that I never even thought to check my phone. I apologized again, tried to explain that it wasn't a big deal in the context of different cultural attitudes toward bodies, that I wasn't trying to make him uncomfortable, and that we could just move past this. He said he understood, but asked if we could just not talk about it anymore. I agreed, and we both retreated to our separate corners of the house for the rest of the evening. Dinner that night was the most awkward meal of my entire life. We barely spoke. The easy, comfortable dynamic we'd had was completely shattered. I tried to make conversation about school, about soccer, about anything normal, but every response was short and uncomfortable. I could see him struggling to act normal, and the more we both tried, the worse it got. I genuinely thought that would be the end of it. I figured we'd both be embarrassed for a day or two, then gradually return to normal, and hopefully never speak of it again. But I was so wrong about how this was going to play out. The next day, Dylan seemed a bit more normal. We had breakfast together, and while things were still slightly awkward, I thought we were moving in the right direction. He went to school, I worked, and when he came home that afternoon, he actually initiated a conversation about a show we'd been watching together. I felt relief wash over me. Maybe we really could just move past this. Then Friday came, and Emma called me. The second I heard her voice, I knew something was wrong. She had that tight, controlled tone that she uses when she's absolutely furious but trying to stay calm. She asked me if there was anything I needed to tell her about Dylan's stay at my house. My stomach dropped. I asked what she meant, playing dumb, hoping maybe this was about something else entirely. She told me that Dylan had called her the night before, really upset, and told her what happened. But here's where things got twisted. According to Emma, Dylan told her that he came home and found me sunbathing topless, and that when I realized he was there, I didn't immediately cover up. He apparently told her that I acted like it was no big deal, and that I made him feel uncomfortable by not being more apologetic or embarrassed about it. That's not what happened. I covered up immediately. I was mortified. I did apologize multiple times, but somehow, in the retelling, or maybe in Dylan's perception of it, the story had changed. Emma was livid. She told me I had completely violated her trust, that I had put her son in an inappropriate situation, and that she couldn't believe I would be so careless. I tried to explain my side, tried to tell her that I thought I had complete privacy, that I never would have done it if I knew he was coming home, that I apologized immediately. But she wasn't hearing it. She told me that Marcus was even more upset than she was, that they were cutting their trip short, and that they'd be picking up Dylan the next morning. Then she said something that really stung. She said, "You know, Sarah, not everything is about your comfort and your lifestyle. You had a responsibility to create an appropriate environment for my child, and you failed." She hung up before I could respond. I spent that entire night replaying everything in my mind. Was I wrong? Should I have been more careful? Should I have stopped sunbathing that way entirely while Dylan was staying with me? Was I being selfish by prioritizing my own comfort in my own space? Or was this a complete overreaction to an honest accident? Emma and Marcus picked up Dylan the next morning. They barely said 2 words to me. Dylan looked guilty and wouldn't meet my eyes. I tried to apologize again to Emma, tried to have a real conversation about what happened, but Marcus actually put his hand up and said, "I think you've done enough." That was 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard from my sister since. My parents called me a few days later, and apparently Emma had told them her version of the story too. My mom was disappointed. My dad was uncomfortable even discussing it, and the family group chat that's usually active every single day has been radio silent. I lost my relationship with my nephew, who I genuinely care about. I damaged my relationship with my sister, possibly beyond repair. And I've been labeled as the inappropriate aunt who can't be trusted, all because I wanted to sunbathe in my own private backyard and didn't check my phone. So here I am, telling this story to strangers on the internet, because I honestly don't know what to think anymore. Was I completely in the wrong? Should I have been more cautious? Or is my family overreacting to an accident that I've apologized for repeatedly? I guess I'll find out at Thanksgiving, if I'm even invited.